first round of podcast already, and this is the second one. So anybody knows what is podcast? Podcast. Anyone? Yes, please come ahead. Run, quickly.
My name is Vansh, and podcast is about like sharing things about myths and all, which people usually don't know about.
So absolutely correct, everyone. Please give a huge round of applause for him and encourage him.
Okay, so podcast is something wherein you connect, compete, and you all, have this exchange of thoughts and ideas on the current topics. So as I told you all earlier, that we had the round one, the first round of podcast, wherein we had the 5 houses along with their house masters. They had given a topic, and on that they had, they had a lively conversation. And out of that, right now we just have the 4 houses. The 4 houses for round 2, one of which has got eliminated. Now we have the 4 houses, and in that we'll be seeing how the podcast works. So let us all just see our talented and creative students along with their coordinators this time on the stage.
So everyone, welcome to this podcast competition. Compete, connect, and conquer in the world of podcasting. But before we begin, let us take a moment to introduce to our esteemed panel of judges who will be evaluating the participants today. So first, we have Mr. Anand Pandey, who is an experienced professional with a diverse educational background and extensive experience in the education industry. He holds a Bachelor's of Science in Physics and has also completed MBA in Marketing. With 15 years of experience in the field, Mr. Anand has worked in both domestic and international markets. Currently, Mr. Anand is an executive director for UCM University, which is one of the top universities in Spain, Europe. In this role, Mr. Anand is responsible for spearheading various initiatives to attract students and involve them in the school activities. His expertise in marketing strategies, both for the domestic and international markets, has greatly contributed to the success of UCM University, Spain, and UCM Mumbai campus both.
Wow. Isn't it amazing to have such amazing judges in our school today? And he is none other than Ayushman Pandey's father. So please give them a huge round of applause. Next we have is Ms. Pooja Kakaria, who is working as an Ayurvedic nutritionist since 8 years and herbal self-care products manufacturer since 10 years. She worked as a marketing head at Kakaria Exim India Limited for 7 years and worked as a counselor also for 3 years. Director at Kakaria Exim Technologies PVT Limited for 4 years. So I think we got an amazing introduction about our judges, and I know that you all are also very excited to see what is upcoming on the stage today. So now that we have introduced our judges, let me introduce you to the houses and their topics for the competition.
So first, we have Gagan House with the topic Bharatiya Paridhan Ki Khubsurti, the beauty of Indian attire, accompanied with the section coordinator of grade 1 to 8, Mrs. Kavita Nair.
Namaste everyone. Welcome to the podcast, the most awaited podcast episode for today, Bharatiya Paridhan Ki Khubsurti. Let's delve into the beauty of Bharatiya Paridhan, the beauty of Indian attire. To understand it more beautifully, we have the fashion enthusiast amongst us today. Let's welcome our guest for the day, Manav Thakkar, and we have Parinita Garg over here on our show today. A huge round of applause, audience.
It's an honor and privilege to be here on the podcast and discuss the topic with you. Bharatiya Paridhan Ki Khubsurti, also known as the beauty of the Indian attire. Nowadays, people usually don't talk about this topic. That's why we'll try our best to provide justice to this topic.
Amazing. Manav, it has always been in our minds, and we always wish to know that what is that so unique about Bharatiya Paridhan, or the Indian attire. Can you put some light on it?
Our Indian attire is not just an attire, but it's a reflection of our religiousness, our culture, and our cultural practices, and many things. Indian attire is also a mixture of various colors and intricate designs.
So, any insights into the popular garments which you know about?
One of the most popular garments of our attires is the sari. Now, sari is not just a normal attire. It's an attire which is passed down through generation, and even our ancestors wore it. Sari is a symbol of status and respect. And like you are wearing a sari, many women wear a sari to decide as a queen, because in the past and now women were treated as goddesses, and saris are of various colors and are located in many parts of India with many other cultures. So one of them is during the wedding, bride is said to wear a red or maroon sari, and in Maharashtra, before the crops are after the crops are cultivated, women usually wear the green sari to thank Mother Earth for letting us plant the crops in it, and giving the plants sufficient nutrients and minerals. And after the harvest, to celebrate, women usually wear a red sari. Also, in the South India, where the climate is very humid and hot, people usually wear white color clothes, so because of their culture and religion and many more things. But if you see logically, when women wear white color sarees and men wear lehengas and other things. So, but if you see scientifically as well, the color white reflects light. So by wearing the color white, it reflects the heat of the sun, thus cooling down the body.
That's amazing, Manav. Like you just mentioned about me wearing a sari, it's a beautiful experience, I should say. Also, I can see you wearing, a sherwani right now. So, is there any cultural aspect associated with it?
A sherwani is a mixture of two words. First is sher, which means a lion, which represents many qualities such as bravery, strength, leadership, and courage. And Vani has two meanings. One of this is what we speak, and the second is our promise. So we can take any both and merge it into a Sherwani. So what does it actually mean is that in the past, kings and leaders used to wear Sherwani to prove that they are eligible as a leader, they are courageful, they are not scared of their enemies, and they are brave. And if anything tries to stop them, any obstacle tries to defeat them, they are the ones who will crush the obstacles because of their willpower. And on the basis of lehenga is not just an ordinary garment. It hides a beautiful truth behind it. It has a expert embroidery in it. The people who usually make lehengas are professionals, and in the past, the ancestors are the ones who are teaching this to their generations. And it can be a very big market in the future. Even the lehenga is the best example of the best product of embroidery known to mankind, according to me.
It's too amazing to know, what kind of a cultural weight is being carried by the so-called Indian attire. Like, can you just help our young generation to know, put some light onto, the way they can explore more into this Indian attire? Some hints or, maybe guidelines from your side.
I would recommend some few things like going to markets, seeing our beautiful attires, going to cultural events to see our heritage, culture and religious practices. And also you can go to museums to see that how and why was our attire formed. Like in the ancient times, saris also used to depict kathas and stories and many more poems like the Kalamba sari and many more.
That's amazing. The last question which I'd like to know is this present generation, the alpha generation, is more towards, inclined going towards the Western style of garments. So what would be your last advice to the audience over here?
I would recommend staying deeply into our roots and never forgetting our culture because of many reasons. Nowadays, we are following the Western culture, but on the other hand, the Western culture is following us. If you see on social media where the Gen Alpha is more active, you can see regular videos of people from Canada, USA celebrating festivals like Holi, Diwali, and promoting our Indian culture, our attires. So according to me, we should stay deeply connected to our roots. Also, if you see, the reason why our attire was made was our attire was formed was of many reasons, such as for ordinary clothes, for many occasions or many festivals. But on the other hand, one of the most popular attires of the Western culture, jeans, was made for another reason. Century or 2 centuries back, when miners used to work in coal mines, their trousers usually got ripped. That was the reason they got an excuse to not come to work. That was the reason they started to wear jeans, and we are following it blindly.
I wish to know more from you, Manav. But now, moving forward, okay, to our next guest. Thank you once again, Manav, for that. Okay. I wish to know from Parinita, which is your favorite attire? The Bharatiya Paridhan I'm talking about.
I like all the attires of Indian Paridhan, but especially I like the salwar kameez most because it's convenient and comfortable. We can wear it on our daily basis work and daily days, and we can also wear it in occasions, festivals, parties and all. It has beautiful embroidery designs. There are different types of salwar and kameezes. It is made of different fabrics and it's mostly worn in North India side. So I like it the most because it's comfortable to wear and
I should say you look beautiful today in this Indian attire. Okay. Also, I would like to know what is your view on the Indian men wearing dhoti and kurta?
thank you for appreciating me. You are also looking beautiful. I would like to say that dhoti kurta, when men wear dhoti kurta, they look nice, they look beautiful. So I want to say them that men should wear dhoti kurtas every day because it's our religious cloth. It's our forefathers are wearing it from ancient time, and it's connected to our heritage.
So you mean to say that there is any practical side connected to this, like any relevance with the weather conditions of India?
Yes, as you can see the climate in Mumbai, you can take the example of Mumbai only. Mumbai's climate is humid. People here wear white kurtas and it's made of cotton fabric, so it's thin and it lets the air pass through in clothes, so we don't feel hot. So
Okay, any recommendation for our audience today? Like how to go about with exploring more into the Indian attire? Where should they start with?
I think they should visit places like local markets, boutiques, and they should go to simple shops where shopkeepers sell fabrics and all. They will get knowledge about different types of fabrics, colors, and they'll get to know how many attires are there in our India. And this.
Any final thoughts, Parinita, on today's podcast? Our audience wish to know more from you. Any final concluding lines?
I will say that we should carry on our legacy. This Indian attire is our legacy and we have to move it on. We should wear it. Like India is following one nation, one policy. So I would like to say that we should promote our clothes in different parts of our world. As Manav told that all over the world our festivals are being celebrated like Holi and Diwali. So I would say that we should promote our Indian attire also, so that the people in the world get the knowledge about our tradition, our legacy, our history. I would like to only say Vasudeva Kutumbakam.
That's amazing. A good way to end our podcast with today. I hope you all had a great time today in the podcast. Wishing to see you soon, the next episode, with some new guests, new thoughts, new perspective. That's all. Signing off. Thank you so much.
Carry on our legacy. Very well expressed by Parinita and Gagan House. So everyone give them a huge round of applause, and I request you all to carry your heritage everywhere. So I guess now they have put a light on what the beauty of Indian attire is.
And also, I in the auditorium can see a lot of jolly faces, our beautiful ladies and our smart boys who are, really wearing the kurtas, pajamas and saris. And I really feel happy to see you all carrying the Indian culture, the Indian roots. Okay, so moving forward, we have Neer House, and the topic for them is contribution of co-curricular activities. Well, I'm not moving forward, but we have been having CCA since so many years in our schools. So anyone from the students or maybe the parents know what actually co-curricular activities are and how do they, contribute in our development? Anybody? What's the purpose? Why are we having these CCAs? Anyone from the audience? Please do not hesitate. This is your own auditorium, your own school. Anyone from the children? Yes, the seniors? Yes, Naisha? Anybody from the girls? Okay, so I think nobody is interested to actually come. So I'll just tell you what it is about. So it is about, getting the growth, the attitude, the behavior, the approach, everything changes once you participate in these co-curricular activities, and they're definitely very important for the leadership and for the growth of, as an individual, as a person of someone. Okay, so we have Neer House, who would be presenting about co-curricular activities, and accompanied by them, we have the senior section coordinator, who is none other than
the students live. Today we have two guests. They're well known for balancing academic as well as the extracurricular activities in the school, which is the first and number one school in the Mumbai region, none other than the Ramaratna Vidya Mandir. I am inviting our two guests. One is Kamya Mishra from class 7th as well as Tushir Sinha from class 10th. Take yours. Tushir, so your school is well known for the extracurricular activities. According to you, what is extracurricular activities?
So extracurricular activities are some things where students get to participate in things like anchoring, scripts or plays, which really helps them build their overall personality.
Which extracurricular activities inspired you to entry in that particular activity which is helpful for the academic development of you?
For me, public speaking was one of the main targets. I was very hesitant at first to do public speaking, but after I got the confidence to do public speaking, it really helped my academics, and I felt more confident when I was giving exams, studying, and overall basic life.
So when you talk about extracurricular activities as well as the academics, so how you are able to balance so both the co-curricular, extracurricular as well as your academic performance?
To the balance, the way I balance extracurricular and co-curricular activities is make a full schedule of a day. Now, in that schedule, I balance my extracurricular activities, which is sports, singing, and co-curricular activities such as this. So, and even academics. And obviously, because I'm in 10th, priorities for me is academics more. And to balance that is a bit difficult for me. But when everybody gets a gist of it and everybody gets a habit of it, it really balances out everything in life.
You know that extracurricular activities are very much needed for developing team spirit as well as the leadership quality. Do you agree with that?
Yes, extracurricular activities always, involve teamwork. It always involves making decisions. Now, making and practicing this can make you a better team player, make you a better person overall, and helps you, enlarge your social life.
Okay, when you talk about the IQ, the most of the parents as well as the teachers are more focusing on the IQ. Do you think that IQ is sufficient for facing the society, or EQ and SQ is necessary that can be bring through the extracurricular activities in your school?
Now, I feel IQ has to do related with studies. Now, when anybody studies too much, there somewhere the credibility of SQ, social content, and EQ, emotional content, reduces. And to basically to have the balance of it, and even if you have IQ, SQ and EQ always have a, it is very important for anybody in the future to have a good amount of it, and to be a social person is being a balanced and perfect person.
And we are talking about one of the major codes, sound mind in a sound body. How you can connect this code with our extracurricular activities in the school?
See, mind without the body is nothing, and body without the mind is nothing. When anybody or you put your soul, you put your body and your mind to something, that's when something is advantageous. Now, it could be academics, it could be extracurricular activities, it could be co-curricular activities. To put mind, body together and to do it with good intention really brings up more improvements and overall affects your life in a better way.
Okay, so what are you thinking that in your school, we heard about through different social medias, new innovative extracurricular activities are implemented like SLP and design thinking, that is Navarajana. And what are you thinking about the management, how much effort is taken for the development of the child? How are you foreseeing or how you look into this?
I feel that the school is really shedding more light to extracurricular activities and co-curricular activities, because it develops the overall personality of the student as a whole. Now, I feel that it is very great initiative from the school to give us the SLP, the Navrashna, the design thinking. All of that helps the overall personality and the team development. Basically, life skills of a person. And for a student at such a young age and learning it, it is great to have these. And I really feel that the school is doing great with involving students in this.
How is your parents' approach towards you are concentrating more on extracurricular activities than the academics? So how the parents approach towards that?
See, I am in 10th standard and this is my board year. Obviously, my parents give more weightage to my academics, but they also support somewhere to me doing extracurricular activities and co-curricular activities, because EQ and SQ is equally important as the boards and the academics. When I face the board paper, the EQ and SQ also come in play, which I believe most parents forget sometimes. I feel that the EQ and SQ with the co-curricular activities and extracurricular activities really helps a student face papers, study and manage time.
Okay, nowadays you can see that the technology is developing. How we can inculcate technology in the field of extracurricular activities? You have any guidance regarding this?
Now, I'll give you an example of robotics, where in robotics, you basically create robots. Now, it really helps in the creativity of a person, the problem solving of a person to maybe create a code, build a code, and to overall build and create a code in the robot. It also brings in teamwork when you're doing it with a team. That's why I feel that technology will really help building SQ and IQ and even EQ to mentally, for the mental well-being of every person.
Thank you so much, Tushiv. And Kamia, you are well known in your school. And when you balancing the academic as well as extracurricular activities, which is the most area you are mostly occupied in the extracurricular activities?
Well, thank you so much for having me here today. The area I have the most focus on is fields such as debate and public speaking, because that is constantly improving my academic skills along with my co-curricular activities and my extracurricular activities. See, suppose I have a debate, let's say on women's rights. I will have to research on it and I will have to go into depth and learn about the whole history of it, what's going on right now. And that's why I believe debate and public speaking skills are very necessary for our academic growth as well.
Okay, we know that not only sports or CCA activities and other events like a classical dance, the arts, as well as the classical music is a part of extracurricular activities, right? So how are you connecting classical dance as yoga?
Well, what is yoga?
It is putting all of your five senses together and working with it. Am I correct? See, what happens is when you are performing classical dances, you connect to all the elements of the world and you put all of your skills together, you put all of your senses together, your eyes, your nose, your expressions, everything comes together to perform classical dance. And that's why I believe classical dance is a type of yoga.
So in your school, so we get in already in our discussion, you already said that. So your management of the school is going to introduce a new event, that is Nedrita, right? So what you are overlooking it, also what you are foreseeing about the particular extracurricular activities which the school management take an initiative to implement for the development of the students?
Well, the school has done in this year 2 activities by the management, which is the Netritva program and the student leadership program. These programs have been encouraging leadership skills among students. What I believe is when the students go to college and when we go ahead for jobs, leadership skills are extremely necessary. The thing is, everyone has a talent, but the one who can take everyone's talent and work on it together is the real leader and is the one who is actually smart.
And you think that most of the parents, most of the teachers are inculcating a culture that in the old generation is concerned, you have to focus more on academics. So such parents or teachers, from your side, what you want to give as an advice, or it can be an information?
Every parent has a different way of bringing their child up. But what I suggest from my side is that recognize what talents your child has. Like when I was 5 years old, my mother thought that she's really good at public speaking. Then she started to encourage me to go participate in more debates, to participate in more activities where speaking is involved. That holds true with all parents. The thing is, co-curricular activities and extracurricular activities keep our mind, body and soul together. It is not possible for someone to keep sitting for hours and keep studying. And that's why even in our school, every day, we have at least one activity lecture so that students are constantly motivated. And that is why every parent, every teacher and every guide should encourage co-curricular activities among the youth.
So before starting our podcast, you already said you are so hurried to go back to your school. Reason you said that your school is celebrating today Uttar Pradesh Bhasha Divas, right? So why, as compared to other schools in Mumbai, we never experienced such a kind of food festival in anywhere. So what you thinking and what your school want to inculcate through conducting the different state food festivals in your school?
Through the UP Food Fest we're having today, we are not just learning about what a state is like and what the culture of the place is. We are also seeing what that place is from the inside. We are also learning that how different parts of the country have different culture, how they have different people, how they have different dressing fashion. And it is also encouraging the students to come ahead, show their inner talent, such as say singing, such as dancing, such as acting. So the school is inculcating a lot of values at the same time while spreading knowledge in the world.
Thank you so much, Tushiv and Kamya, to be present for us for giving a valuable information. So we understood that through extracurricular activities, the students are able to develop their social, emotional, as well as their personal development and overall the holistic development of the students. So today is our end of our podcast, and next time we will see you with a new theme and with which will be very informative. And goodbye and take care each and everyone.
We have Powerhouse coming up on the stage with the topic Impact of Mantra and Shloks on the Students, accompanied with Academic Excellence Head and our beloved coordinator, Ms. Swati Singh. So everyone, please give a huge round of applause.
Namaste everyone, Ram Ram. Welcome to the second episode of the podcast Mitti Ki Khushbu, wherein we are going to discuss about the impact of shlokas and mantras. I am sorry, shloks and mantras. So we have with us two guests today. One of the guests is very bubbly, always enthusiastic, tries to be very, very inquisitive and learns a lot, speaks a lot. So this stage, this particular episode is going to be her episode. She's none other than Miss Anshika Singh from grade 12. Let's have a huge round of applause for her. And next we have very sincere, determined, looks very calm and quiet, but a lot of khalbali goes on in his heart and brain always, and we are going to see and experience all of it today. We have Master Jeet Jain from grade 10. So to begin with, talking about the impact of shlokas and mantras, as I said before, backstage, one of the guests told me it should not be shlokas and mantras, it should be sloks and mantras. Jeet, will you like to shed some light on it?
Yes, so it's a common misconception that it's called shlokas and mantras. It's shloks and mantras. Just because we write it in English that way doesn't mean it's the pronunciation. So from today, everyone should call it shloks and mantras.
Okay, so Anshika, first tell me, how did this thought strike to you that you will study about the impact of shloks and mantras?
Namaste Ram. Thank you so much for the heartwarming welcome. So the inspiration of the interest that struck in me to research upon the shloks and mantras, that impact it has, strike from the various traditions and the cultures that focus on the mental, emotional and spiritual well-being of a person. Day-to-day life in modern lifestyles, the challenges and the academic pressure that a student faces is quite tiring, and I agree with it. So a neutral and holistic way of dealing with it can be shloks and mantras. Additionally, I think personally the concentration that I get and the focus that I am able to achieve by chanting shloks and mantras has been very beneficial and significantly improved my focus a lot. So I think chanting shlok and mantras is a part where the research and exploration can be done more.
Okay, good to hear so many things she has already researched about related to shloks, mantras. Next, I would like to know whether there is any difference between shloks and mantras.
Yes, I think shloks and mantras are both an integral part of the spiritual practices, but both have their different characteristics. Shloks are verses written in classic Sanskrit, in Indian classic literature, and it is used in various Vedas, in Mahabharata, in Bhagavad Gita, and it contains a quatrain. A quatrain is 4-line verse, and it is a meter, a specific meter known as Anushtup, which contains 32 syllables. So the shloks are more written to study for the spiritual awakening and guidance in life. Mantras, I think, whereas is phrases or syllables, which is used for meditation and evoking the spiritual energy in our body. It's very small, just as Om, a phrase. So, do you know about Gayatri Mantra? It's a very powerful mantra and very popular among the students.
I think everyone must have recited the mantra. Why not say it here, Anshika, if you know the mantra?
Yeah, I think definitely it will calm ourselves. So, let's join our hands and sing the Gayatri Mantra. Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha Tassavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodaya.
So that being said, the points which you mentioned, spiritual awakening and kind of concentration impact is very much felt when we say the Gayatri Mantra, when we say it right now. So Anshika, along with that, going along the line of knowing about shloks and mantras, what do you think about incorporation of shloks and mantra recitation in the school?
Normal elementary and schools have already started implementing. As the feedback from the teachers, the students who regularly practice says mantras and they practice shloks are they have a better attention, and day-to-day life they are more attentive in class and they participate in class more. So the repetition of shloks and mantras requires a person to give their attention to a single task, which increases the attention of a student. And the discipline that shloks and mantra brings, as everyday chanting brings an association to positive change, and the academic sessions are more interesting and disciplined by the students. So it is beneficial in a very long term as well, not just a single change. But yeah, it has been very beneficial for everything.
So you feel that incorporation of shlokas and mantras through the education, through the schools is very much needed. That is what you feel, right?
Yes.
Okay, so can you tell me in the Uttar Pradesh Bhasha Divas celebration of Ramratna Vidya Mandir, do we have some incorporation related to shlokas and mantras today?
That's a surprise which our school has planned. The Little Ratnas have planned a very beautiful surprise for the guest, and I hope the guests are excited to see that.
Okay, so let's not ruin the surprise and let's not go into detail of the same. Let's go to the next question. Do you know about some of the, this is the, I think we are going to have some very young audiences in the podcast telecast. So would you like to name one or two celebrities who also believe in this?
There are many big celebrities and names who practice shlokas and mantras, and a big part of success has contributed because of the calmness and serene personality that they attain from the chanting regular practice of shlokas and mantras. Sanjay Leela Bhansali, Rajkumar Rao, and these are some common names who practice shlokas and mantras and attain before any big event or shoot.
Okay, so that was it from our this bubbly Anshika Singh, who has studied in detail about shlokas and mantras. Talking about the industry too, she has mentioned few very big names. Let's go towards the next part, towards much into technicalities and detailing of introduction of this shlokas and mantras. So, Jeet, how do you think the cognitive skills of a student or a child gets impacted by this chanting?
So, there are many types of specific mantras and shloks for increasing our cognitive function and our skills. So, there are 5 mantras which I know. The first one is the Gayatri mantra. Second one is the Saraswati Vandana. Third one is the Mahamrityunjay mantra. Fourth one is the Dhanvantri mantra. And the fifth one is the Om Namah Shivaya mantra. So, saying these mantras helps reduce our stress, helps reduce our anxiety. It also helps in increasing our cognitive function, our intellectual capacity, and our intelligence. So, it's very good for the overall development of a child.
I've mentioned few nice mantras and shloks. Mahamrityunjay, I think you know it. Do you know this mantra?
Yes.
Can
So
you recite it?
Yes, we all can
Do
recite
it,
it
please.
together.
We would join you.
Om Triyambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvakamara Bandhanan Mrityur Mokshir Mamritat.
Wow. So I think less being said and more being felt through the mantra recitation which he has done. Now, when I talk about shloks, mantras and their impact, very much important is speaking about the people who are going to implement these things. Students and, teachers and the parents. Do you have any message for the teachers and the parents who are going to work upon this?
Okay, so like in our school, every day we have morning assemblies where we chant at least 4 shloks. So this just helps in our overall growth. And the message to the teachers and parents is that I think incorporating shloks and mantras is not a bad thing. It will just be for the benefit of the child. It will increase the thinking capacity, the intellect, and also the cognitive skills. So I think parents and teachers should know that shloks and mantras is not a bad thing, and it will be only for the benefit of the child. So, yeah.
Okay, that is what you feel. So, dear Mitti Ki Khushboo fam, we have been talking about Ram Rajya in few episodes of our podcast. So, Ram Rajya being talked about, still we have faced many debates around it and challenges around it. So, on the same note, we would like to know from our guest today that what are the challenges in case we are trying to incorporate it through the educational institutes or in every household. If we try to incorporate it, what are the challenges? Can you shed some light on it?
Okay, so number one, many people think that chanting mantras and shloks is part of superstitions, it's religious indoctrination. That is a big misconception because chanting mantras and shloks is good for us and it's beneficiary for all of us. So I think that's one problem that we face. Another problem is that most people find it boring and they just feel it is as time pass. But actually they should realize that once they understand the shloks and mantras, it will be good for them and they should. And even shloks and mantras can be taught with the help of history, language and arts. And so that students' interest increases in shloks and it's just better for all of them.
Okay, Jeet. So is there anything like Okay, looking at the detailing which is given by the both of them, I felt that we have got into much of the the depth and the roots of importance of shlokas and mantras. No, shloks and mantras. Dear family, you have to say this: shloks and mantras. Recitation of Om Bhurbhuva Swaha and the Mahamrutyunjay mantra was really, really very nice. Thank you so much, our dear guest Anshika and dear guest Jeet, for shedding the light on this topic, and it was lovely being here on this podcast with these two guests. Signing off for today. Mitti Ki Khushboo will be running on and off throughout with new topics and new guests. Thank you so much. Namaste. Ram Ram.
All right. So I think we are coming to a very conclusion of this podcast. And with that, I would like to call upon Sameer House. And the topic for them is the crucial role of our mentors. You know, our mentors, our parents, our teachers, who, play a very vital role in shaping our lives. So with that, I would like to call upon Sameer House, and to accompany them, we have again Miss Kavita Nair, the section coordinator of grade 1 to 8. Please give them a huge round of applause.
Welcome to our school podcast channel, Sipping Thoughts with RRVMians. So here we have today two of our dashing students with us, from a student council members too. We have over here Param Chopra and Yash Devre amongst us. A huge round of applause, everyone. Param, I know that you are a student council member this year. So our audience would like to know about, which post are you handling this year?
Okay, so namaste everyone. My name is Param and I am the Sameer Vice Captain.
Okay, so such a young age and you being entrusted with such a huge responsibility. So Param, we all are eager to know, our audience wants to know that what is it like, or who is it? Is there anyone responsible? Or maybe, a question like, is there a mentor in your life, Param, who has a positive impact in your life? So we would like to know that, is it true like you have a mentor in your life? And also, what according to you is a mentor?
Okay, so I would like to start with a shlok. Nasti matri samachaya, nasti matri samaprapaha, nasti matri samam tranam, nasti matri samagati. So this shlok means that our mother is the first mentor of our life. She is the one who will always protect us. She is the one who will always be there with us in all walks of life. She'll never leave us supporting. There are a lot of mentors in our life. They can be our friends, teachers, of course our parents. They play a very important role in our life. So according to me, mentors are the people who will always support you in all walks of your life. They'll provide you with encouragement. They'll enlighten your future, okay? So they'll provide you with wisdom. They'll also help you when you're stuck. They'll make you able to, they'll boost your self-confidence and they'll be always there with you.
How true. So do you believe, Param, that, a mentor has a great responsibility of boosting self-confidence and self-esteem? Do you believe this?
Yes, of course. Mentors always boost your confidence and your self-esteem. We can see this in our life also. There are a lot of examples in which your mentors have boosted your self-confidence and self-esteem. I would like to give an example of Virendra Sehwag. Okay, so he is an ex-cricketer. He was a part of the Indian cricket team. So when he joined cricket team, he was a bit nervous. He was a great player, okay, but he was a bit nervous. He lacked confidence. But Sachin Tendulkar, he mentored Virendra Sehwag. He boosted his self-confidence, boosted his self-esteem, and now we can see they both are the best players in cricket.
Amazing. Also, I would like to know, now that was about Tendulkar, right? Do you have any personal experience, Param? Wherein you were facing so many challenges in your life, maybe academically, and you came across this special so-called mentor in your life. Has this ever happened with you?
Yes, of course. There is a moment in life when you need support, when you need a mentor to guide you. So I would like to give my personal experience. When I was in 5th grade, 5th standard, I was a bit distracted from academics. Okay, so when my mother got to know about this, she guided me. She talked to me in a very friendly way. She mentored me. She boosted my confidence. She told me some quotes and all, which boosted my self-esteem, and of course, also boosted my academics. She helped me during my studies and all. And yes,
How sweet is that? So, Param, let's, just end this podcast from your side. I'll just like you to conclude with, the three most essential qualities of the best mentor, according to you.
okay. So in my opinion, the best three qualities of a mentor can be wisdom and guidance. So okay, mentors will always guide you. They'll provide you with wisdom in all walks of life to navigate challenges and all. The next is emotional support. Okay, so emotional support is very important in today's generation. We can see people suffering from autism. We have people who are depressed. They have anxiety issues. So emotional support is a very big thing which is provided by your mentors. Okay. The next is role modeling. So mentors are the people who are successful in life. Not necessary, but they have a lot of experience. Okay. So they can inspire you, they can provide you with integrity, and also they can help you to shape your future. I would like to conclude my speech with a quote. Surround yourselves with dreamers and doers, okay, believers and thinkers. But most of all, surround yourself with those who see greatness within you, even when you don't see it yourself.
Wow, that was amazing. And what an eclectic mix of the essentials which you shared. It was truly great to hear from the students like y'all at such a young age. Thank you so much, Param. Moving on to Yash Devde. Yash, we'd like to know about your perspective too. Like, who according to you is a mentor? What would be your definition for the so-called mentor in your life?
Okay, it may be a very different and a weird answer for you, but the answer to this question is sitting in front of you. Okay, you see, I've been very successful in my academics, my all co-curricular activities so far. And again, I've done an international trip previous year when I was just 13 years old. Was I born with the thought that I had to do this? Was I born with the dream that I will be going to an international trip at the age of 13? Of course, no. There would have been someone who would have navigated me through all these challenges. And here is the answer for your question. The very basic idea of a mentor, a guide who navigates you through all challenges of life, who gives you their experience and their knowledge and always wants your prosperity.
Amazing. It's too great to know about your international tour. Okay, after having said that, would you like to share some of your personal experience right now so that our audience too get to know about it? Like, was there any fear factor in your life, and how did the mentor help you to overcome this?
Yes, everyone has fears. The one who doesn't has a fear is a god. Okay. My personal experience is like the people who are watching me from 3 years since I came in the school. I was in 7th. They are watching me performing on the stage. They would be shocked to know that it was my first time in RRVM when I performed on the stage. It was the month of April, and it was the CCA competition of Hindi elocution. And of course, I had not performed on the stage before that. But my mentor, I don't know what she saw in me. She saw the unseen potential that I didn't see in me, and she had a very confidence in me that I would perform best. And it was very shocking that it was my first time performing on the stage, and I secured the first place. So my mentor had played a very vital role in this success.
It's a blessing. It's indeed a blessing to have such kind of mentors at such an early age. At the same time, Yash, do you believe that there is a negative side too to the mentorship? Do we have that?
Okay, I'll tell you one thing. Have you heard or saw the game when there are two partners? One is blindfolded and the other one has to navigate the partner through all the obstacles and reach to the finish line. I'll tell you one thing. The one who is guiding should be experienced and knowledgeable to guide the blindfolded partner enough so that he can finish the race and succeed. But one who is not that much knowledgeable or who is not much that experienced always leads to the failure of that person. This is the negative side of mentorship. The best example I can give you of this is Duryodhana and Shakuni. Shakuni had been the mentor of Duryodhana in the war of Mahabharata, and due to the wrong mentorship, the inappropriate mentorship of Shakuni, Duryodhana had to lose his life.
Like, I'm truly amazed listening to all these thoughts from such, students like y'all at such a tender age. Okay, let's give a concluding line to this podcast today.
Concluding? Okay, I'll do the concluding. Heard of the pole star? It navigated people in the ancient times. Mentors are just like the pole stars. They navigate you to the rightest path and make you reach your destination. But it is in your hand to whom to choose as a perfect mentor who can guide you through all the challenges. Not each star is a Dhruv Tara.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's all for today. I hope all the members over here have had a great time with us today. Hoping to see you soon in our next episode with someone new over here, with new thoughts, new perspectives, and new vision. That's all. Me, Kavita Nair, signing off. Take care. Have a good day.
So, very rightly said by Param and Yash, that surround yourself with the people who inculcate greatness and gratefulness in you. गुरु तो हम सब की ज़िंदगी में होते हैं, चाहे वो श्री अर्जुन हो जिनके गुरु श्री कृष्ण थे, और चाहे वो राम जी हो जिनके गुरु विश्वामित्र थे। हम सब की ज़िंदगी में गुरु का एक बहुत बड़ा हाथ होता है। हमारी सक्सेस यानी हमारी सफलता के पीछे गुरु और हमारे माता पिता, उन सब का बहुत बड़ा हाथ होता है। तो एक बार उन सब के लिए ज़ोरदार तालियां हो जाए।
Okay, so I think we have, come to the conclusion finally, but not really, because of course the amazing judges who are sitting over here, we would love to felicitate the entire Ramratna family. We would love to felicitate you because you have given a lot of your time here today to embrace, our occasion, our competition of podcast. So I would like to call upon Ms. Kavita ma'am on the stage along with the judges to felicitate them. Please give them a huge round of applause. Please keep on clapping, dear audience. Please keep on cheering them. Thank you so much for coming to Ramratna. Thank you so much for
Principal ma'am and judges. Now I request both the judges to share their views and opinions regarding this podcast competition.
Last moment thing. Namaste everyone. As I always say, जब मैं आती हूँ हमेशा नया कुछ सीख के जाती हूँ. आज मुझे यहाँ पे जज बनाया है and I would like to say to प्रिंसिपल मैम, मैं क्या इनको जज करूँ, वो मुझे सिखा रहे हैं आज के दिन. मैंने खुद के पॉडकास्ट रिकॉर्ड किए हैं लेकिन ये कॉन्सेप्ट एकदम न्यू है. So thank you, Principal Ma'am, मुझे यहाँ पे invite करने के लिए. Now I'll have to rethink on my podcast which I have recorded. And thank you, Ankita Didi, for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Namaste. ये सेशन तो बहुत ही बढ़िया था, but being a judge, I have to be very upfront to you all, and I have to give a very genuine feedback. विच आई फील कि यहाँ पे कुछ इम्प्रूवमेंट हो सकते थे. हालांकि बच्चों ने बहुत ही अच्छा किया, नो डाउट, बट बीइंग एज अ पेरेंट एंड बीइंग एज अ मेंटर और भी जो टॉपिक थे, तो आई रियलाइज़ कि अगर मेरा बच्चा यहाँ होता तो आई शुड गिव अ फीडबैक कि ये इम्प्रूवमेंट तुमको करना चाहिए था. सो ऑन दैट बेसिस आई एम कंसिडरिंग, एंड प्लीज़ टेक माई फीडबैक जस्ट एज अ फीडबैक and observation, nothing else. You all had done a very great job. I realized, especially with the boys guest, the smiling was missing. I don't know why, but while they are conversing, while the conversation, they are seems to be serious. I don't know. Maybe the girls are more charming, so they are very very you know, वो बहुत ज़्यादा smiling में थे. But boys के साथ ये था. दूसरा, movement of the bodies like hand, expression, those are few things which I feel is missed somewhere. And third is the podcast is your feedback, nothing what the society is saying. If you talk to the Jayasankar and if you heard that podcast, he had given his feedback. He doesn't bother about what China is thinking, what US is thinking, what Russia is thinking. So similarly, it's your opinion matter to us. So यहाँ पे थोड़ा एक अगर बच्चे इसको करते तो बहुत बेटर रहता. Rest everything is according to me is very fantastic.
And yes, Amam.
Namaste everyone. Just sit carefully, silently for 2 seconds. Pin drop silence. I would like to thank today's judges for the genuine feedback and their presence. You touched the right point, Anandji. Same was going in my mind. So definitely we would be sharing this all feedback to our children. And as Sir shared, so you all know about the feedback. So once again, thank you Pooja ma'am and Anandji for giving your precious time to us. Thank you very much.